Before I begin, this video is sponsored by me. If you like any of the art drawn in the video or wish to support me or just to grab yourself a cute new charm for your eat-a bag, head on over to my online store and grab yourself a print or two. Thank you guys so much all for your support. Now back to the video. So, let's talk about One Piece. Hello, my beautiful weebs. My name is Yasmin Abdu. I'm a freelance manga artist and illustrator, and this is my video on why I love One Piece so much. Now, before we begin, I just want to say that I will do my best to remain spoiler-free throughout this video, but if talking about characters or talking about how Oda writes or just gushing about how beautiful the story of One Piece is just still too much spoiler for you, I would just click off this video and come back another time. I also will be showcasing a process video of my artwork in the background, drawing one of my favorite One Piece characters, so if you like this kind of content and wish to see more, please hit subscribe as it shows a lot of support towards me and my artwork. I also do have a lot of plans to tell more stories in the future, so if you're interested, please hit subscribe. Now with that out of the way, let's get started. Before I started watching One Piece, I just wanted to say that I was actually the biggest hater of the show. I used to find any excuse to not watch it because I used to think the art style was ugly or that the dub was weird or that it was just way too long to get into. Mind you, the only dub at the time was the 4Kids dub. You know, the one that made Sanji sound like a guy from New York City who really liked lollipops. I also just didn't really like Shonen Jump at the time, so trying to sit through 300 episodes of dudes fighting was just really not on my radar. It wasn't until 20 years later when I discovered this really cool Japanese singer who was becoming a really big star in Japan. I started listening to her music and I just fell instantly in love with her songs and her voice, and I just found it so powerful. That is a story for another day though, but around that time, they announced news of a new One Piece film to be coming out and that she was going to be the singing voice for this new character they had for the film. Once music from the movie started to drop on her YouTube channel, I just fell in love with that album. And I just kept seeing more and more news and more interviews about this film that I decided to give it a shot and go watch it with my friends. Mind you, at the time, I had never seen a single episode of One Piece and neither had my friends. So none of us knew anything. We were just going in blind. But I still had like 3 months to catch up, so I was like, let me give it a shot and let me see if I could just sit down and watch 1,000 episodes of a show in 3 months. Now, that sounded like a really daunting task, and I honestly did not believe I could do it. In hindsight, I didn't do it. I finished it like 6 months later, but I just was so like overwhelmed. Like I was like, I don't know if I could do it. It's too many episodes. I'm not sure if I'm even gonna like the show, so why would I go see this film? But once I just like sat down and put on an episode of One Piece, I started the greatest adventure of all time. This was the best fantasy story I had ever watched. Sit down because I'm about to gush about this show for a straight minute. I absolutely fell in love with the show from the very first episode. The moment Luffy jumped out of that barrel, I was hooked. Everything from the characters to the world building and even the villains, I grew more and more in love with each episode I watched. And if you've been around on my socials for a little bit now, then you may have noticed a complete obsession with a particular clown pirate. And I'm sorry to all other pirate lovers, but he is the best pirate and I believe he will be the king of the pirates. Okay, all jokes aside, I think One Piece has some of the most beautifully written characters I have ever read. Now, if you're thinking about the character designs and then you just heard me say that, you're probably thinking like, what the hell are you talking about? Are you crazy? Like, One Piece has some of the most ridiculous looking characters. But in fact, Oda does a very beautiful job of introducing characters and allowing us to get to know them before he smacks us in the face with their saddest backstory like you'll ever read in fiction. That could put you in a depressive episode for a week, especially if you grew attached to certain characters. Their backgrounds also explain and justify why they act and look the way they do. As an example, a character like Senor Pink, he has one of the most ridiculous looking character designs, and at first when I saw that I was like, this is the weirdest looking character I've ever seen. Like, who is he? Why is he dressed like a giant man baby? But in fact, like, his backstory justifies why he dresses this way and shows us why he did it and why he still does it to this very day. And it is so touching. Like, a lot of these characters Oda creates are so relatable to you. I really appreciate Oda's writing style so much because of that. He has so many like characters that are colorful and that are just over the top and weird that as a manga artist myself, it inspires me to do the same with my own characters someday and my own stories one day. Even his women characters are written so well. Like, they are relatable and have such deep backstories that it has completely changed my perspective on how he draws women. Okay, so now that we talked about the characters, now let's talk about the art style. Now, I know earlier I said I hated the One Piece art style, and as a kid, I used to think that it was extremely ugly, but I'm gonna smack that little kid me in the face because let me tell you how much nostalgia I felt watching One Piece again, especially as an adult in this time, especially like the early 90s anime One Piece, like with, you know, the beautiful coloring and the traditional backgrounds. And I'm also gonna throw in the character designs here for a second. 90s One Piece character designs look so much better than their modern counterparts. Now, don't get me wrong, the modern animation style of One Piece is phenomenally beautiful, like stunning. You can like pause any frame of the modern anime and that's a work of art on its own. A lot of people spend time digging through like the impact frames just to see the hidden meaning some of these animators put into it, and it's some of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. But there was just a charm about the 90s animation style and how, you know, colorful these characters were. Like Zoro's design, as an example, is something I always brought up, that he had more character in early One Piece than he does in later One Piece. Like, he became just the stoic samurai when he used to be really goofy, and I loved it. I also just love the style of the like Toei 90s animation style, like how expressive he felt, how expressive all the characters felt. And it was just, it's so beautiful. It's like very nostalgic too to see that early animation style. Also, Oda's like art style, I really feel like is what made his work stand out against a sea of modern anime. Like, I love anime today. Modern anime is some of the most beautiful, most stunning things to have ever come out. Young kids nowadays are just spoiled with how beautiful the modern anime scene is. Like, every anime you watch is like watching a movie. Back when I grew up, that was not the case. Like, you got like 1 or 2 episodes that were like beautifully done where all the budget was put into, and the rest of it was really cut down basic stuff. Modern anime has this problem of people are too afraid to push the faces because they're too afraid of making them look ugly, or they're too afraid of making them look you know, not aesthetically pleasing. And that's why I think I really appreciate Oda's art style a lot, because he is not afraid to make a beautiful character look ridiculous because it makes sense for the scene. Like, it makes sense for the comedy that the faces look ridiculous, or it makes sense for the scene that the characters are crying and they're ugly crying. Like, yeah, they may be a beautiful character, but they're crying. They're not supposed to be this beautiful tears. It's a sad moment. It's supposed to be them like lamenting and like, you know, feeling some kind of mourning, or just in general, like a character is like supposed to be angry. Like, why is a character not angry, you know? Modern anime struggles because that's all they want to do. They want to make it pretty, and that's why I think Oda's art style is so unique. This also helps his comedy so much because the faces he puts is hilarious. Like, Oda is like peak at comedy writing. I have never laughed so much in any show other than One Piece. Like, a lot of the comedy makes me like belly laugh. Like, I would be in tears from laughing at some of the scenes. One of my favorite scenes that me and my friend talk about all the time is that scene on Skypiea when Luffy has the giant fruit and he bites into it and realizes that it's hard as a rock. He then punches it and is like, "Hey, Usopp, catch!" And then just proceeds to smash Usopp's face with this hard rock fruit. It's the funniest thing like you will ever see. And that's why like I think that Oda's art style stands out, and to see an anime, like to see it all, like the comedy is just peak. The art style like complements that comedy, but it's also beautiful at the same time. Like, I won't lie, like watching Oda's evolution as an artist from like 90s One Piece to this modern style is just so gorgeous looking. Like it's just wow, this is an artist dedicated to his craft. Like you can see him evolve. Now, I'm going to address one negative about the whole video here and a whole of One Piece actually. And that is that One Piece as a story is long as hell. At the time of me recording this, it is over 1,000 episodes, and it's not even finished yet. And that includes the manga too, so they're both still ongoing. What if I told you that once you started One Piece, you would actually wish that it was longer? Let me explain that reasoning. I completely understand that, you know, it is very long, it's very hard to start, but once you start watching it, like, and you actually genuinely love these characters, you start being like, this is interesting. You start seeing the different islands, you start meeting the different characters, the different storylines. Then later you get revealed with some of like the more like lore heavy stuff, the impactful information. You start going like, I wish there was more. I wish like I continue reading or continue watching. Because by the time you catch up, you start feeling like you just want more. You want to know more. Like you want to know more about like this island here, or that island there, or this character here, or this character there. Like you wish there was more. Like a story like One Piece is an adventure story. It's a story about meeting new characters, seeing new worlds, seeing all of these different things. It's a story about found family. It's a story about not letting go of your dreams. Like I can only imagine if a story like One Piece did not have adequate time to tell that story, how bland it would have felt if it didn't have enough time to explore the different islands. Like if I didn't get a whole entire arc of just like the Alabasta Island, I would not have cared about Vivi as much as I do. Or if I didn't get to explore like Marineford that much, like I would not care about the justice system and how it works. But everything starts working together, and like we get to learn tidbits from here and there. Like you would hear something being mentioned in like episode like 100, like as example they talk about Impel Down early on, and later we actually visit the Impel Down. We get to see what these people are talking about, and we get to understand why it's so scary, or why the Marine headquarters is so scary. Or like Oda is also a master at foreshadowing. That is something that I really appreciate about his storytelling, is that he mentions something, it'll eventually come back. Or if he introduces a character as a villain in one arc, they will eventually come back and help the main cast later on, depending on what they are and how bad they are, per se. That's the beauty of One Piece. The length actually allows it time to breathe and explain all these stories and backstories, and you get to meet these interesting characters. The problem that I think One Piece as an anime faces is that Toei is notorious for making things longer than it needs to. Like, it's not even filler, it's just that they make certain scenes longer, or they make certain animations longer because they add some like filler stuff that just is not necessary, it's not needed. But the manga has no problem. Like, I've read through the manga, the pacing feels great in that. I would recommend, if you're trying to get into One Piece and the anime are just too much, or that the fact that Toei makes like certain episodes longer or arcs longer because they just want to pad out time, I would recommend the manga 100%. The pacing does not feel bad, and you could probably read it in within a month or two, depending on how fast of a reader you are, and you could be fully caught up and just watch the anime as it comes out. That is what I recommend to everybody, especially if you're stuck on an arc too. If you're just stuck in a particular arc and you just cannot move forward because of how the pacing is, then I would recommend just reading the manga version of it and then coming back to the anime later on. Because you will eventually start to notice that at later episodes down the line. Besides that, I think One Piece is a great story. It's a story about, like I said, like found family and never letting go of your dreams. And if you went through this whole video thinking that One Piece is still really not worth your time, and that me gushing about One Piece is ridiculous because you think it's a bad anime or it's just not worth the hype, that's fine. It's not for everybody, and everyone needs to accept that. I have friends who just don't want to watch One Piece, and I'm not going to force them to watch One Piece. But if you came through this video looking for that reason to start, I honestly cannot recommend it enough. I could have made this video like longer, like hours long, if I were to really dig into like lore accurate stuff, or dig into like why characters do the things. But there are channels out there dedicated to that. I'll link a couple of my favorite ones down below who do an amazing job of breaking down characters and breaking down character lore and explaining why characters are the way they are. I really hope you guys enjoyed my video. I drew this like a while back ago, like a few months ago, and I only just now got to making the video. So I do have plans to talk about more stories like my trip to Japan and how that changed my life, and also I want to talk about my journey of becoming a published manga artist someday. If you are interested in that, please check out all the links down below. If you want to support me by giving me a subscription or following me on any of my socials, all the links will be down below or in my bio. I had a lot of fun talking about One Piece. I never really get to gush about my favorite series, so I'm glad you guys actually sat down and just let me ramble for a bit. Thank you all again for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye!